Hi guys and welcome back to Karting with Sean. In today's video we're at Mr Karting again for the second round of the Heavyweight Hustle Championship, and we're in store for another wet race. And if you watch my video of round 1 of the championship, then you'll know that wet conditions isn't really my specialty. But let me just catch you up again on how these races work. On the day we're split into two groups, Group A and Group B. These are a mix of the pros and the rookies, so it's like multi-class racing. We then get sent out in our groups to do a 5-minute practice, which usually goes straight into a Superpole qualifying, but for today's session for some reason we had an extended practice session and we just took our fastest lap from there. Then are the 4 heats. The first heat is qualifying order, second heat is reverse race 1 finishing order, and third heat is usually reverse points order, but it can vary. Then lastly, the 4th heat is the trophy final, where it's all to compete for. Points can be scored in every round here, no matter where you finish. But now let's get into my qualifying lap. Coming out of the final corner now at the end of my cool down lap, and we go to start our qualifying lap. I keep it really tight to the barrier into turn 1, as I don't really want to take too much of a racing line due to these wet conditions. I keep it really wide on the outside of turn 2 for the same reason, and we now head towards turn 3. Once again keeping it really tight in 3, 4 and 5, being quite delicate on the brakes here, and I actually get a pretty decent exit for my standards anyway. I think I hold a pretty decent line going through the chicane here as we now go onto the back straight towards turn 8. Braking quite early here and trying to get some rotation in the car, but it doesn't really work out in my favour. I keep it tight through 9 and through 10 as we're now onto the start finish straight to finish my lap. I managed to set a time of a 41.894, which was good enough to put me 7th overall in my group. Coming into the pits now for the end of our qualifying session, and I managed to secure myself P13 out of 21 drivers this evening. A bit of a better performance tonight than round 1, so I'll definitely take it. Going out to the grid now for the first heat of tonight, and I'm starting 7th out of what should have been 11 drivers. I'm not too sure why, but 2 drivers decided to go home after practice and qualifying, so I guess that means less people to overtake me. And I also get kind of confused here because I thought I jumped in front of Jacob there, stealing his position, but it turns out I didn't and we're all good. But anyway, let's go to the lights. And it's lights out and away we go, and I get an okay start as I managed to sneak up the inside of Fran here, who now has the inside going into turn 2. So do we manage to keep it fighting? We do, as I keep it around the outside for more grip, but she keeps her position. Going now into 3 and 4, I close the gap by a lot, managing to get right on her bumper, and she has to make a bit of correction out at turn 5. And now I have Jacob on my inside going towards turn 6 and 7. He manages to just squeeze past me going on the exit of 7 there, and now we're on the back straight going towards 8. I gain a lot of time on the guys in front after they all have a little bit of a scrap through 9 and 10. But now on the start finish straight, there's 4 of us all trying to look for the inside down into turn 1. In turn 1, I bump Jacob a little bit and Fran bumps the person in front of her. So now Jacob and that guy go side by side through turn 2. In turns 4 and 5, Jacob gets caught a bit off guard there I think, so he gets a bit sideways and I try and have a look around the outside of him through extension, but don't make it stick. At the start of the next lap, you see Jacob spinning in turn 1, which sends car 2, the person he was fighting with before, wide, allowing me to slip through and gain 2 positions in 1. But just bear in mind, this isn't the last we're going to see of Jacob in this race, believe it or not. You might have seen me look down at my front left wheel there, and that's because it was at this point in the race where I started to realise and feel that something wasn't quite right with this car. We now come to the last lap of the race, and the effects that I was feeling at the start of this race on my car have gotten significantly worse. We meet this person here who's spun on the apex of turn 1, so that's another 3 position gained, but once we go back to racing it gets real. As we now go back to green flag conditions, I can actually hardly steer this car, and I'm actually a hell of a lot slower taking this track than I normally am because I know that just something isn't right. You can see throughout this whole section I'm pretty much staring down on my front left because I feel like it's about to come off. Coming into turn 8 here, I try and steer, but I just understeer really wide because of that wheel. It's really loose at this point. I mean, you can kind of see it wobbling about there, and you see Jacob on the inside there to the line, and I just about pip him to the finish, keeping my P5 position with my wheel just about hanging on. I mean, just look at that. It's all over the place. On my extremely slow in lap, I'm letting everyone pass, trying to not hold anyone up and put my kart to the back of the grid so we can get fixed. I didn't know what was wrong with it at the time, but yeah, I knew something was up. Anyway, ignore my screams there. I finished that race in P5 with the best lap of a 41.440, scoring 12 points, which is more than any heat from the last race.
My wheel's about to come off.
Well, after that eventful start to the evening, let's go to the second heat. And I'll be lining up 6th on the grid for this race. And it's lights out and away we go for the second heat of the evening. I get a pretty decent start going into turn 1, managed to go side by side with the kart ahead, but once again they managed to pull just in front of me as well as the person behind me. We keep it side by side through turn 2 and go 3 wide actually there. I managed to get a better exit due to the grip on the outside. Coming into turns 4 and 5% on the inside of Harvey, gaining another position. I have a look on the inside of that green suit and white helmet there, but there just wasn't enough space and it was a pretty bad move on my half. In front of us going into turn 6 and 7 is Gregor, who's holding up a pretty defensive line, so fair play to him. But now barreling towards turn 8, I go to the outside quickly and try and look for some sort of grip, but don't find it all and get overtaken myself. But we keep on battling for this position all the way through turn 10 onto the start finish straight as I get a free position there, someone who's gone wide. And now heading towards turn 1, I get distracted once again, probably because of my lack of brain cells, and send myself into the barrier, losing another position to James on the inside there. I then get a pretty bad run through turn 2 thanks to some oversteer, leaving the gap open on the inside there. You can see the shadow of the car as they have a look. But I managed to catch back up with James to break in here. Even give him just a little bit of a bump there. But knowing James, he's just going to fly off anyway. At the front of this pack is Gregor, who we've seen towards the start of the race, but now we've got a few cars in between us. He gets overtaken on the right, I think he does twice, no, just once, with the guy in the red attempting to move on the outside of him and just about making it stick. Green then makes contact with the red, allowing James to have a nice opportunistic move on the inside of him. And I try to follow them all the way through turn 1 until this happens. Gregor gets a massive snap of oversteer under braking, allowing me to gain 2 more positions, putting me up into P4. And that's going to be all the action for a while. We now cut back to lap 6 going on to 7. For the love of God, please don't say it in the comments, I know you're thinking it. But we managed to catch up to P3 massively under braking into turn 1. He then goes very aggressive on the defence on the inside of turn 2. But I stick it to the outside to try and find that grip and I get a better acceleration on the exit. But I then press the brake pedal a bit too hard going into 4. But we still managed to fight all the way through 5 going into 6. And I managed to catch some more here going through the chicane. It seems that I'm a bit more confident on the brakes in this guy, so I can definitely use this to my advantage. We're now coming up to some back marker traffic coming through 8, 9 and 10. And at this track they don't blue flag anyone unless you're fighting for the lead. So we have to find our own way around this guy. We end up going 3 wide on the start finish straight pretty much. And I managed to catch more under braking here from the 19. I don't know if my tap there forced him to go wide, but just in case it did, I'll wave my hand as an apology. But we still continue to go side by side through turn 2. And he gets bumped on the inside from green shoulders there, and I then get forced into the barrier, losing a load of positions here to Harvey and Fran too. So it wasn't really great considering it was all ABC. But luckily I do gain some positions back up post race thanks to penalties. But I guess my plan of action is to have a great recovery drive, so let's see how I do. And unfortunately that recovery drive hasn't really gone too well, so I only take P6 here on lap 11. And that is it for heat 2. I finished lap 14 in P6. It wasn't really too great, but it also wasn't too bad. Well, it was better than my normal standards anyway. But I didn't actually finish P6. I got promoted to P5 thanks to the penalties that I mentioned earlier. Fastest lap that I set in heat 2 was a 41.046, and that's another 12 points in the bag. But now let's jump into the third heat where I start 5th for this race. And it's lights out and away we go, and with me being on the outside of the track I then get a very good start. You see the guy in P6 immediately jump in front of me as he dives towards turn 2, and I just get shoved into the barriers a bit there and I get overtaken quite a lot. But this is where things get messy. Seeing Jensen bump into the back of Gregor there, which causes him to bump the guy in the green shoulders there. I might just start calling this corner Monza turn 1. It seems like all of the mayhem just happens in that corner. But now we're behind Gregor, who told me before this race that he's going to have to put up the defence of a lifetime. So I try and go up the inside of turn 8, which in these wet conditions is an absolutely awful move to try and make. Luckily though, he gets corrected and we keep on fighting through turn 10. He then gets bump drafted by the car behind him, giving him a massive speed advantage, and the car behind him, which was Jensen. That makes sense. Jensen is a very quick and very good driver, and I'm getting a bit reckless with it there, giving him a few love taps. Him and the car behind him there, not quite sure who that is, almost squeezes through, but doesn't, and I managed to close him off just before 4. I end up giving Jensen another little love tap there, and I go wide, and the guy behind me just streams right through. So does Jensen on Gregor. So far this heat really hasn't gone my way. A few laps later and I'm still chasing Gregor. We managed to gain quite some time here through turn 1 and I managed to close the gap by some margin. He then takes a shallower line through turn 2, and with me knowing where the grip is on the outside of turn 2 in these conditions, I get a better run out the exit. I then gain even more time through 4 and 5, which then allows us to pretty much go bumper to bumper going into turn 6. He moves to the inside here to take a defensive line, which inevitably compromises his exit out of the chicane. I gave him a little bit of a tap on the exit and he takes the inside line once again to keep it defensive. But it appears he has this section of the track pinned down better than I do. So he manages to gain a lot of time on the exit 10 as I have a snap of oversteer. I then managed to claw some of that time back through turn 1 again, giving us a good run through turn 2. And I'm now closer at this point here than we were last lap. We both get a fairly equal exit out of turn 2. Coming through 3, 4 and 5, I must be a bit more confident on the brakes than he is as I catch a lot more time here. He then goes back on the same defensive line as last lap, meaning that he's going to probably stay ahead of me for the rest of this lap. But I get a better exit out of 7, gaining time on the back straight. As we now head towards turn 8, he once again goes for the inside line as I just completely understeer into the barrier, not knowing where the grip is in this part of the track. But now we're a lot closer this time than we were last lap going into turn 1. Gregor ends up going a bit deep here and I have a look up the inside but just don't get the acceleration on exit, and we pretty much do the exact same thing through turn 2 again, apart from I just get a massive snap of oversteer. But through 4 and 5 again I catch a hell of a lot, having a look up the inside so he can't take the defensive line, and I take that position off him. Next up though in front of us is a back marker, so we're going to have to try and find our way through him nice and easily without compromising ourselves. I try a bit of human DRS here, which, I mean, it looked like it worked, but it's probably just because I was a bit earlier on the brakes. I think Gregor tapped me there, so I was waving my hands in frustration, but obviously it didn't hurt me too bad because I'm still managing to go side by side with the back marker, and I was waving my hands there because I received a contact warning. Me and Gregor both did, but I didn't make contact with anyone through the overtake, so I'm not too sure why I got it, but oh well, we got through the back marker nice and easily. We're now on to the last lap of the race. Now we are racing the car ahead for position here, so we both get a bit of a niffy exit out of turn 1, going into turn 2. Now he keeps it inside for the defensive line, I stick around the outside for the grip. But now we head towards turns 3, 4 and 5. And I actually catch a lot under braking here, actually giving him a little bit of a tap through 4. I try and do something similar to what I did with Gregor and sticking it up the inside going towards the chicane, but unfortunately he has a better exit out of 5 than me, meaning we both go wide. I give a bit of a tap, almost bumping him into the cones. He then checks his shoulders to see where I am, and I check my shoulders to see who's behind me, and there is a car. I couldn't quite figure out who it was, but through 8 and 9, bit of an iffy line from both of us, to be honest, more so him, and we go neck and neck through to the line, and I do not get the position, unfortunately. Give him a thumbs up to say well done, because it was a good race at the end, and that is the end of Heat 3. So I finished this heat P7, which was 2 places behind where I started, which is a bit unfortunate, but we still managed to secure 10 points. And now we go to the 4th and final heat of this evening, the trophy final. I'm lining up P4 on the grid for this race, and let's see how we get on. And it's lights out and away we go, and thanks to me being on the inside allows me to go side by side with Harvey here. But now heading towards turn 2, I keep it a bit wider, try and find some more grip, but don't really find much. Green shoulder finds its way through on the inside and is taking me before turn 3. We now get bunched up a little bit going through extension, and on the exit I keep it tight to try and keep somewhat of a defensive line from anyone making a potential attack. but unfortunately the final wasn't really too interesting, so I've cut most of it out and we're here on lap 8 taking P4 thanks to them spinning in front of us. And yeah, that was pretty much it for the final. Here we are on the final lap taking the checkered flag. Tapped the wheel a little bit just because I'm ecstatic that I got the P4, to be honest, best position I've had in a while. But here we see P5, who was actually the guy that I overtook when he spun for P4. Give him a quick fist bump, say well done on a great evening. So yeah, after that short but sweet heat, we finished P4 out of 10 with the best lap of a 41.656 and another few points for us in the championship. So I ended this night 13th out of 21 drivers, scoring myself 40 points for the championship. Not a bad evening, but I could definitely do better. But for sure, a hell of a lot better than the first race. So that is going to be all for today's video. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe, and I really hope you enjoyed. Leave some comments as well if you have any tips for wet weather racing, because I'm obviously not very good at it. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.